First of all, big congratulations to the Bruins and Coach Cassidy's great win last night. A heck of a game. Like seems like they've all been. So we're behind them, and go bees. We got a lot of big games coming up. So wish them well. And Coach Cassidy's been done a great job there, and got a lot of great players. Love their style of play. So just want to show our support. On our end of it here, we're kind of wrapping up our second week, and feel like we continue to make progress in the things that we're doing. Clearly, we have a long way to go, so we're not anywhere close to being where we want or need to be, but continuing to push ahead. And this is an important time to be able to devote some extra time to fundamentals and understanding the big picture of the teaching, not just one individual assignment, but kind of how the play fits together, and what adjustments do we need to make on certain plays based on what's happening to us, and exposing everyone to things in the kicking game to give us the quality of play, but also depth there that ultimately we know we'll need. So that's kind of where we're at here. Just keep trying to stack days on top of each other here going forward, and be ready to go in training camp.
We'll open up the questions. We'll take Mike Reese, followed by Ben Volen.
Thanks, Stacy. Bill, how are you today?
Good, Mike.
Good. I like the hat. Any lacrosse this weekend for you with the Premier League right there?
Yeah, it's been been interesting to see some of the guys, and they'they've all been around all week. With all the teams are practicing and so forth. So yeah, getting a lot of lacrosse here, getting a good fix on it for several days. So excited for Paul and the start of the PLL, and I'm sure they'll have another great season, and looks like he's really got that rolling, which is just great for the sport and great for all the people involved in it. And I'm sure the fans will love it. I'm sure there'll be a good crowd this weekend. And a big win for just also a big shout out to BC and Acacia, and they had another great year, and certainly finished it in impressive style. A big win against Syracuse in the championship game. Down there in Baltimore. It's a great venue down there in Towson at Johnny U Stadium. But great win for Acacia and the BC women, and I'm proud of what they've done. Not just this year, but the program she's built there, and how consistent they've been.
Thought that men's final was awesome too. The finish there. I don't know how much if you watched that. That was great.
Yeah, it was. It's really takes me back to my younger days when it was a lot of the Maryland Virginia rivalry. It goes all the way back. I mean, it goes a long way back, but I certainly saw a lot of it in the '70s, and those great ACC rivals, and then Maryland going to the Big Ten. But it finished. I mean, it was two great teams, two great programs, came down to the final shot. And it doesn't get much more exciting than that. So really good weekend for lacrosse, and another good week for lacrosse here. So PLL, I'm sure, get off to a big start, and we'll have it rolling all summer.
I know we got other people behind me. I had a quick football one. Nelson Aguilar. What have you learned about Nelson just over the last couple 2 months that you wouldn't have known from him, not being around him on a day-to-day basis?
Right. Well, we've known Nelson, for a while, but having him here has been, you certainly have a different little different perspective, but he's a smart kid. He's got a lot of position flexibility and good skill and talent. He's like everybody else, learning from scratch, learning a little bit of a new offense and some, things, the way we call things and do things and all that, but nothing that, he or any other new players can't handle. It's just part of the process, but he's doing well, good to work with him.
Next question, Ben Volen, followed by Phil Perry.
Hey, Bill, hope you're doing well.
Hey, Ben.
Wondering if you have any idea the percentage of players on your team that have either gotten the vaccine or in the process of getting the vaccine, and is this something that you guys are really encouraging with the players?
Yeah, it's really being handled by the medical board. I know we've got quite a few guys. I couldn't really give you a percentage or whatever, but it's, the number's increasing, and so we'll just continue to, work through the process.
I mean, the rules are much different for vaccinated players than for unvaccinated players. Do you stress that with players? Do you envision that having an impact come roster time?
Yeah, I don't know. We're just, working through the spring. We get new notifications and memos, and there've been probably at least half a dozen modifications of something or other, some aspect of testing or meetings or practice or whatever. So it's been, consistent level of, or consistent, change from, day to day, week to week, phase to phase. So whatever it is, we'll be compliant with it and work through it and try to get the most out of it that we can.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Next question, Phil Perry, followed by Chris Ryan.
Hey, Bill. I guess one of the themes of this call will be talking about sports that are not football, but I wanted to ask about Brad Stevens because I know you have a pretty good relationship with him, and he's obviously changing jobs, and you're a good person to ask in terms of, having Brad's situation is going to be a little bit different, but obviously you know what it is to be a coach, you know what it is to be a front office person. What kind of advice would you give Stevens as he makes this transition with the Celtics?
Yeah, I mean, I have a ton of respect for Brad. He's a good friend and, a great person. I think he's certainly added a lot to the Celtics and sports in Boston. And personally as a friend, he's helped me as well in our conversations and time we spent together. So, I'm sure he'll, whatever the setup is over there, I'm sure he'll enhance it and Celtics will continue to be, the strong competitive team that honestly that they've pretty much always been. And, I'm sure Brad will do a great job in whatever capacity or role he's asked to perform or he chooses to perform in.
Do you remember how challenging that was, Bill, whenever you started to focus, more on the front office stuff and running a team that way? How long did it take you before you really felt comfortable in that kind of role?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, when you're part of a sport like Brad is, or like I've been, many others are, there's a lot of lines that run together there. So, I mean, you can't be the head coach and not be aware of contracts and acquisitions and things like that. And so, I don't know. Again, I don't know exactly how they're set up, and each situation's a little bit different. But I mean, Brad has enough experience in basketball and with the Celtics and in the National Basketball Association to, I'm sure, handle all the things that he'll need to be handled.
Thanks, Bill.
Next question, Chris Ryan, followed by Bob Sosi.
Hey, Bill, how are you?
Good, Chris.
Wanted to ask you a little bit about, you were talking relationships with Brad Stevens, obviously, and also your respect for Bruce Cassidy. How much do you gain in your interactions with coaches in other sports? And what are you looking for, in some of those conversations? And are there particular guys that you have taken things from in other sports that have been advantageous in your growth?
Yeah, well, I think it's it's a great perspective. Even though the sport's different, dealing with athletes, dealing with teams, dealing with similar situations. Even though the sport's different, there's a lot of common ground there. So I think a lot of times those conversations are great, and they're very insightful, and honestly, in a lot of ways, they're easier to have. And for me to call up another coach in the National Football League and talk about my problems, I mean, that's not really something that I would do or that anybody else would do. Another coach in the NFL would do that. I mean, it's a hard time seeing that happening. But when you're talking about different sports and there's no, not trying to gain an edge on anybody in Major League Baseball or the NBA or the NHL or Coach Petromal with Hopkins or, Coach Ken at Navy or somebody like that, that's just completely, out of your circle of competition. It's a lot easier to have sometimes those kind of frank conversations about your team or about whatever the situation is, whatever you're talking about, than with somebody who's in your sport that's competing in your league in a similar situation. So yeah, I think those have been very insightful to me, and some of the friendships that I've made with those people in other sports have been very helpful, and they've given me a lot of insight, and I've taken a lot from their knowledge, experience, leadership. It's quite a few people. I won't be able to name them all here, but there've been quite a few of them.
And just your sense on the receiving core at this point, obviously very early, but you talked about Nelson earlier. Do you feel that this is a group that has good depth and is ready to move forward?
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, we don't have any games scheduled here anytime soon, so we're going to continue to practice, install our system, learn what to do, learn how to adjust it, get to know the players better, give them a chance to learn our system, and modify it as we go.
Next question, Bob Sosi, followed by Mark Daniels.
Thanks, Stacey. Good morning, Bill.
Hey, Bob.
Hey, Bill, you often refer to this time of the year as a teaching period as opposed to an evaluation period. And I'm curious if there's somewhat of an exception when it comes to place kickers, in that you have multiple place kickers, even multiple long snappers right now, and how you handle that in this case with more than two. We've seen two compete in camp before, like last year, but now you have three in the mix.
Yeah, there's a degree of evaluation there. Yeah, it's not a lot of playbook teaching at those positions. That's fairly straightforward. But yeah, there's a degree of evaluation at a skill position like that. Yeah, I agree with that. But at the same time, there are minimal, team situations there. A lot of it still is, those guys working on their technique and, and finding ways to improve, what they're doing, their footwork, their body position, working with holder and snapper and so forth, or snappers working with, holders and punts and field goals and things like that. So I think that there's been a lot of improvement, especially as you would expect at this time of year, May to June. I don't know that, too many players at any position are in midseason form at this time. So, where a guy is this week and where he was 2 weeks ago is not necessarily the same. So, ultimately the competition will start, when it starts. I wouldn't say that we're there yet, but you can start to get a little bit of a feel for, just the overall mechanics and, in kicker's case, their leg strength and their consistency and so forth. But again, a lot of that's a function of the hold and the timing, and sometimes a tweak in what they're doing can make a big difference between, being a 70% kicker and being a 95% kicker, and that could happen in a short period of time. So we'll see how it goes. But as long as they're here, then and they're improving, then we'll keep working with them, keep evaluating them.
And just a quick follow-up regarding Quinn Nordin. He didn't have many attempts in his final year, shortened season in the Big Ten, of course. He passed this year about 2019 tape versus 2020. How much progress has he made this year, considering really the lack of at-bats, if you will, a year ago?
Yeah, I think Quinn's made a lot. Again, Joe and Cam have spent a lot of time with him, going all the way back to rookie mini camp, and in terms of working with his technique and his kicking mechanics. And he's definitely made some changes, I'd say, for the better. And so we'll see where all that goes. But he's doing well, and as I said, it's continuing to improve. So we'll see where that takes us here.
Great, thank you.
Yeah,
We've got time for one, maybe two more questions. We'll go Mark Daniels and possibly Mike Giardi.
Hey, Bill. Good morning. I wanted to ask you about Nick Caserio and the process of replacing him. Since Nick did so much for the team and wore so many different hats, have you spread out those responsibilities through different individuals in the organization, or is it simpler where it's just one person, whether it be Dave Ziegler, Elliot Wolf, Matt Patricia, whoever it is, to take on the bulk of what Nick did?
Yeah, I'd say we're set up a little bit differently than we were when Nick was here. So, yeah, we could talk about that for hours, but we're not going to. So there are a number of different elements and things that are intertwined here and so forth. And so we have an opportunity to kind of, reorganize some things. And so that's what we're going to do. Matt wasn't here last year. He is now. That's certainly, he's an important part of that. But, the people that you mentioned, Dave, Elliot, Matt Groh, Steve, so forth. I mean, there'll be a number of things that will, modify for one reason or another. And if we have to, adjust them at a later point in time or further, we'll do that. But we'll, start with, which we have already, start doing things a certain way and see how it goes.
And one last question, Mike Giardi.
Morning, Bill. Josh yesterday was talking about Mac Jones's command and his presence. And I'm just curious if in the short time that you've had him, that you can see that as he translates that, whether it be in meeting rooms and then obviously from the work that you're doing on the field right now.
Yeah, I think Max, he has a pretty good understanding of, the things that we do. And then, he has to go out there and do them and get comfortable with them. So, it's a process, and we've had, a number of other players at that quarterback position come in and go through that. Sometimes it starts a little slower and then picks up. Sometimes it starts a little higher and slows down. We'll just have to see how it goes. But he's working hard. He's puts in a lot of time and certainly, given his very best effort to do everything we've asked him to do and do it the way that we've asked him to do it, which, is a great place to start. And he's earned a lot of respect for that. But he's got a long way to go. We'll see how it goes.
Thank you, Coach. Thanks, everyone.
Great. All right. Thank you.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.